Ken Rolston with Kingdoms of Amalur game. So tell us a bit about it. It's a massive RPG open world. So
Kingdoms of Amalur is the setting, and Reckoning is the name of the game. And Reckoning, let me tell you what we think is the marketing differentiation of our RPG. We really, all role-playing games have to have 4 basic elements: epic narrative, exploration, combat, and advancement. And we felt that, you know, if we were looking around, you know, people have done a pretty good job in epic, vast narrative. I can think of people at BioWare, for example, who don't suck at that. And then for exploration, I admit to have been responsible for some of the work on that in Morrowind and in Oblivion. And if you look at Blizzard, it's not like they don't have that sorted, you know, loot and advancement. But combat, I think, it's not that combat is bad in role-playing games, but I think that your expectations for combat come from your old tabletop expectations. And it's kind of slow-paced, kind of ugly and messy, and then that got translated into like Baldur's Gate and things like that. Turn-based games, you thought they were pretty good. But again, what you don't know is that they're slow-paced. And then you take a look at the move to first-person and third-person role-playing games on the console. They're still working on the constraints of the PC in many ways. They're not doing as much as they could do with the controllers. And at the same time, what a wonderful opportunity. I find myself working with R.A. Salvatore, who I bitterly accept the fact that he's a better writer than I am. I think it's unfair, but on the other hand, since I'm a better game designer, I get to win some of them. But nonetheless, really great narrative opportunity. And then I'm working with Todd, you know, who's done Spawn. And, you know, he knows something about the visceralness of combat, and he also knows something about animation and physicality and the physicality of characters. And I'm saying, okay, action games kind of have some really good stuff in them, except the storytelling and the exploration isn't so good. But, you know, that's kind of fun. But I've got Todd here, and he can help me with that. And also it turns out that action games, the currency of gameplay is animation. And I say to myself, are role-playing games as good in animation as some of the other games we have? And the answer is no. So I say, what a great opportunity. That's what Reckoning is going to be about. It's going to be about the best combat in any role-playing game. And of course, one of the challenges is actually, you know, once you're a visionary and you say, let's do that, turns out I had no idea how to do that. But big, huge games and the people that I work with struggled and suffered manfully until they could produce the very thing which you can go test in the demo room and find out that it's way too much fun.
No worries. And so what about the storyline? Where was the inspiration that came for that?
Well, of course, because it's morally wrong to ruin a story, whether it's a movie or a novel, by telling what the story is. I would say, no, I would never tell you that, but at the same time, I will say that when I'm trying to design a role-playing game, the moment that I feel that I've achieved what I want to achieve is when I have a great premise, it's someplace to start. And the great premise of this game is that you're the first person to be resurrected in history. And you and I might be thinking of some parallels in history that mean that that's a big deal. But not only is that the case, you don't know who you are. So there's the mystery about who you are. Are you a good guy or a bad guy? You also don't know why you were resurrected. Something magical happened. And I imagine if you found out that somebody, you know, in our world, the first time it was resurrected, people would be interested in that. And some nice people would say, would you please help us to do this? And some other people would take you apart and try to figure out how it worked. So you've got all these great story threads going in this premise. And I know I'm ready to start development on a game when I have a premise that that's open for the player. He can define himself as he goes, and it also has suspense. And it also has suspense that I can spin out over sequel after sequel. The player will say, I know who I am. And I say, you might be, but I'm not going to tell you. I've got a secret and I won't tell. It's because I'm a childish, bad person that I enjoy that stuff.
Rightio. So, about the character customization, how deep does it go? It seems like it's pretty huge from what we've seen in the demo.
Oh, absolutely. I would be morally wrong if I were to betray my role-playing pals by not giving that ability not only just to dress themselves and to create their characters in the way, but to give them the kind of crafting opportunity to actually be responsible for the kind of choices that they make. So yeah, it's deep, it's rich. Actually, talking to Ian Fraser is probably a better thing because he's tragically responsible for that. Me, I'm responsible for the big ideas. But if you saw the demo, actually, you can smell, like in character creation, how much you get to start with. And then the game has way too much loot because we promise you way too much loot. And it also has way too many different abilities. And you can start discovering, that's another cheap trick we decided. We say, you know, we have this huge, we want to make great combat. Well, we're going to take all the different archetypes, stealth, magic user, and fighter, and make them so luridly satisfying that if you're used to playing a fighter or a mage, you'll discover what the other guys can do, and we kind of blurred the boundaries between them. And we also set it up, I don't know if you're a role player, but you find out that if you decide you're going to make a hybrid character, you usually get a gimped character because the abilities don't really fit together well in a symmetrical way. We made them fit together in a symmetrical way. So just to give an example of the seduction, you're a fighter. You're used to doing the simple stuff, the dramatic stuff, beat, 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 great, you bang on that. And then you find out as you're doing that you also got this button to dodge, and you're used to dodging, but you find out that the mages, when he pushes his button to dodge, you know what he does? He teleports behind his enemy. And you get lust. You want to do that. And then the next time it's time to go up a level, you want to be this guy, but you say, no, I think I would like to be behind the troll so he can't beat on me. So it's those, we want to set up these opportunities where I think of it as in the same way that Oblivion was about open world exploration of a landscape. I want our game to be open world exploration of the combat, that you're always looking for the little gift-wrapped present that we have. It's all supposed to be discoverable. You say, wow, that's cool. Please, can I do that? Oh yes, you can do that, but you can't do another thing. My favorite delicious choice is I want everything and I can't have it now, so I have to play forever to get all of it.
So, and you touched on the loot system there just briefly, so tell me all about that.
I can't see. It turns out that I'm not a really great system designer, and it's a lot of work to do that. So the way the loot system works, you'll have to go talk to Ian Fraser in detail about. But to be straightforward, since so far as I'm playing, I'm getting a lot of loot, and also that loot includes the standard packages of things that if you get bonuses by having the whole thing, and not only do you get loot, you get parts, and you can use them in your crafting. It's just the standard RPG stuff. What we wanted to do was to give you the very best of RPGs everywhere, and then the other thing that we tried to do is make them easier to get to. One of the things that I was worried about modern. I want that faster pace, but I also want to make sure is the accessibility. One of the problems with role-playing games is they tend to be hardcore, and people get used to a slow pace and complicated interface and going up and down in menus and stuff like that. And an example of how we wanted that to suck a little less is that when you find some new piece of armor, or you can immediately equip it the first time you look at it. All you do is press the X button and you equip it, and I say, thank God I don't have to wait and go into my damn inventory and sort it to find the object and then equip it.
Right, yeah, so the abilities and destinies. What can you tell me there?
Destinies, the simplest way to describe it is we've had character classes for a long time, but one of the problems with character classes is choosing your character class in the beginning of the game means that that's before you know what the game does really well, or before you discover what kind of a person you want to be, before you go into the world and find out what it's like. So what we do is we've broken up character classes into a lot of pieces called destinies, and they aren't character classes either. They're like character classes, but what they are is packages of abilities, and you get to choose, like, do you want to have a kind of a finesse stealth package of ability, or do you want to have a axe murderer, you know, kind of stealth ability, or a blow the meat off mage, or subtle mage who sneaks around, so that you can kind of assemble the parts of your character, number one, as you discover what the game is about, and also as you try to go through that world of candy that we have and suffer the great misery of wanting to be everything at once. And the other thing that we did that, again, if you plunge the line, normally in a role-playing game, if you start out as a fighter, if you try to make a hybrid character, you gimp them. Our routine is not only do you not gimp yourself, you can build a character who does the exact kind of things that you want to do, assembles bits and bobs, and they work together systemically.
Okay. Now, your enthusiasm for games is really infectious, and just gaming in general. Where does it come from?
I'm a deeply troubled human being, obviously. That's a really good question. I think one of the great things that happened to me, that I used to be a teacher, and I discovered in a science fiction bookstore in Manhattan a thing called Tunnels and Trolls, which was an early mimeograph versions of Dungeons and Dragons. And I said, oh my God, I can make games. And I can make, and more importantly is I can make incredibly stupid, bizarre games. You know, where you have, you know, an armored peccadillo instead of an armored, you know, armadillo. It's a giant creature that all it does is it has small sins, and I mean, you tell stupid little jokes. So the liberatingness of that made me excited, pretty much obviously in a constant state for, you know, maybe 40 years. And I worry about that for others. I don't want people to be married to people like me, because it's too dangerous. My wife is a very, very brave woman.
Fair enough. So, you know, for someone like yourself who just wants to get into games, like, what did you do? How did you go about it?
Well, that's an interesting question, and it hasn't been asked in a very long time. What I did is I was a teacher, and I discovered in paper gaming that because I was an English teacher, that I could do a better manuscript than other people who weren't as well taught about me. Now, I know that sounds terrible, but what happened is that the editor might see a really brilliant idea in a terribly written paper, and yet when I submitted my first submission to TSR, I had done a better job than their own internal guidelines. So they immediately wanted to talk to me. And it's because I was a pretty good writer to start with, and also have a deeply troubled personality, and I have the energy to come up with the bad ideas that other people might feel uncomfortable about having. I don't. I'm perfectly happy having a bad idea. So that's how I became a game designer.
Fair enough. All right. And finally, just when is Reckoning going to hit the stores? When are we going to see it?
Reckoning will be released in the United States on the 7th of February 2012. I don't want to get this wrong because I got it wrong yesterday. And it'll be released in Europe on the 10th of February 2012.
So what does that mean for us Aussies?
You know, I haven't got any idea, and my handlers are going to tell me when the game releases in Australia, he said, looking off camera. And my handlers, who are supposed to be the smartest people on earth, are betraying you and me right now. So I don't know. One of my handlers promised to get back to him if you give them a card, and you can act. This is a great interview thing, breaking the spirit of our handlers. So that's the way you can do that.
No worries. All right. Thank you very much.
Cheers.